Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another third stimulus check unemployment benefits extension update. So in today's update, I really want to take a little bit of a nostalgia trip to go back and talk a little bit now about the $10,200 unemployment tax cut, because I know it has been a little bit of a while, and actually to this day there are still a lot of people that are still waiting for it. So if you happen to still be waiting for it, just know is that there are actually still a lot of people that are in your shoes. They did run into a lot of delays, which is what I really want to talk about today. Now, if you are someone that maybe has already received your $10,200 tax cut, or basically the amount up to $10,200, because again, it's $10,200 is what's covered, not, $10,200 physically deposited. While everyone is still here now that the video just started, maybe feel free to maybe comment down right now your state, your filing status, and whether or not you have received your unemployment tax cut, specifically on the federal level, and maybe you can mention on the state level, because I don't think anyone has received it on the state level yet, but I do believe is that there are many people that have received it, and also a lot of people that are still waiting, of course, also on the federal level. Even though I know that it is, of course, a federal program, I just figure that the more details, it's always just more useful to kind of compare, to think about what page everyone else is on. But the real reason why it's been a little bit of a while since we've talked about it, and I know some people have been wondering why it's been so quiet, and the true answer is actually because the IRS has actually been pretty quiet about it. And so they've actually taken a little bit of a while to even release information. They gave a lot of updates, but then they admittedly kind of just went mute and kind of quiet over the last couple of weeks. But in today's update, we do have new information now about when it should hopefully arrive. I want to really just clarify some details, because there are some people that might be wondering if they even physically qualify for it. I do want to run through maybe step-by-step clear instructions on how you can physically check when you will be getting your unemployment tax cut if you are someone that qualifies for it. Because I think at this point, since it's been a couple of weeks, you can even consider this almost like, I guess you can even say this is the fifth week or fifth wave at this point. It's a little bit vague, because what really ended up happening is that the IRS really gave a lot of details for the first 4 waves that were very, very distinct. Like they mentioned how in the first wave, it was going to be people with the most simplest tax return. In the second wave, it was going to be single filers. In the third wave, it was going to be married couples. And then in the fourth wave, it was going to be people that had that slightly more complicated tax returns. But then what really ended up happening is that I'm pretty sure after the 4th wave, they pretty much kind of went quiet about it. So even though it's been a couple of weeks, maybe we'll just consider this as the 5th wave. But we're going to talk all about that in today's update, basically about how it works, what it is, more details, and just basically everything about it. So real fast, maybe as always, before we begin, remember to smash the like button. In light of, hopefully, if you guys enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification button for similar videos like this. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts, or just as mentioned, any information that you have or your current status with the unemployment tax cut. So with that being said, let's get this video started right on the spot. So the quick story to what really ended up happening, this article just came out something within the last 24 hours if you are watching this on release date. And the story is that they ended up realizing that the IRS ran into a lot of delays, and specifically that they were backlogged with a lot of tax returns that they had to really take care of. Because again, keep in mind, as mentioned, is that the majority of these tax refunds, they will be doing it automatic, which is the really, really great news to you guys. Don't have to really do as much for most of you guys. There are some specific situations, but for the overwhelming majority, it's going to be automatic. But as mentioned, is that it just doesn't mean that it's going to be fast. Automatic, but not necessarily speedy. And I think that's the really important thing to note about it. Now, in terms of what really ended up happening is that they realized that because they had so many tax returns, and especially it wasn't even just about unemployment, but so many other programs that they had to kind of deal with. For example, within the IRS, the child tax credit is coming super soon. I believe that's actually in about a week from now. So that is the really, really great news. At this time period, if you happen to have a child, they are still very, very much on schedule with starting to deliver the child tax credit. But the real story behind it is that I think it's because there were just so many different things that were going on. They ended up kind of backlogged, and even mentioned how they were pretty much short-staffed. In other words, they just didn't have enough workers, Which is kind of the hilarious irony, is the fact that we're talking about unemployment and people that are struggling to find work, yet these are the people that are struggling to hire people. So it kind of would be funny that, you know, if we were able to basically get them to employ some of the unemployed people that are working with them. But that's kind of just been a little bit of an irony that I think some people have kind of been bringing up. Now, maybe just some really quick important information that I know some people already know, but there are still a lot of new people here, which is the really great news. So welcome if you guys happen to be here, or if huge thanks if you've been here for a while. But in order to get this tax cut, you have to have filed taxes, and in order to qualify, this is basically something where if you are someone that had taxes taken out of your unemployment program, what they will do is they'll pretty much be able to waive and cover up to $10,200 of your unemployment. So this is not a $10,200 stimulus check. This is what this is that, say for example, you collected $20,000 on unemployment, let's say last year. Basically what happens is now within that $20,000, $10,200 they will cover taxes for, pretty much for every single person on the federal level, and most states on the state level as well. So based off of that math, most people should be able to get a refund, if you know that applies to you, of somewhere between $1,000 to maybe a little bit over $2,000 is the typical amount that you will, which is pretty legit amount. I think that, I mean, this is basically almost like a $2,000, I don't want to say stimulus check, but at least like a refund. Basically, it's something that's going to add about $1,000 to $2,000 extra into your bank account, which is something that's hopefully a lot needed at this current time, I know, for a lot of people. Okay, now in terms of if you're interested in trying to check again about how to actually find out the date or more information, this is a pretty relatively well written out guide that I kind of saw that should basically walk through every single step. But I know because some people sometimes listen to this as a podcast, or they just like to listen to the audio in the background, or maybe it's even a little bit hard to see. But the idea in terms of the steps of being able to physically check, what you really want to do is that you want to essentially log into your IRS account, which is the same exact account that you pretty much use to do the majority of your tax related work, especially throughout the entire stimulus check journey and everything that's been going on, especially most of last year. What you want to do is that you're looking for your tax records. So in one of the specific tabs that are, you know, within that site, when you log into your IRS account, there should be something where you can view your tax records. You want to click on essentially get transcript, and you basically want to just run through that process. I think for pretty much this part, it's just going to ask about like what you're using this for, why you're, you know, looking to try to get your transcript. You can pretty much put almost anything for that. And then what you're going to be looking for ultimately near the end is you are looking for something called the 2020 account transcript, which makes sense because we are talking about covering taxes for 2020. But the idea is that when you are able to find that 2020 account transcript, you're going to essentially open it up, and inside there should be some kind of date that's listed. That is going to be the date when you should expect your unemployment tax refund to come. Now, if you don't see any particular information or no date when you log in, then the likely reason is there's really two possibilities. It probably means either they don't have information yet, so admittedly, as hard as it is to say, is that you are probably one of the tax returns that happen to be on backlog, or just that are going through some kind of delay. Or probably another huge thing that's potentially possible is that it might actually just mean that you may not actually be qualified for it. Now, there is actually one information that the IRS did mention, which is really that if you are qualified for it, you will be getting a letter within the mail, somewhere around within the 30-day time gap for when they send out the unemployment tax refund. And the idea is that within that letter, it'll basically just be like a confirmation letter. It'll essentially say like something along the lines of like congrats, or just simply that you have, you know, you are set to receive X, maybe $1,000 to $2,000, basically however amount of money should be refunded to you. And it might even already refund before you receive that letter. But the idea is that you will likely get some communication, if you are qualified for it, in the form of a physical letter that will be sent to your house or home or whatever address you have on file. The big thing to really notice is that this is actually especially true if you happen to be someone with a more complicated tax return. It's really just because because if you happen to have a lot of things going on, so what are examples of this? It could be maybe you just happen to have a lot of children, or maybe you're trying to get onto a lot of the other related government programs that might be impacting this. Or actually, interestingly, one that's less talked about is really about the garnishment side. It's really that because there are actually ways that they can potentially garnish it. So I think this is a really important thing to note about it. I remember there's somewhere online that talks about the specific details about that, but these are all pretty much possibilities or just ideas for why it might be happening. It is also important to note, I think, you know, important to mention, is that this does come separately from the traditional regular tax refund. So it is going to be coming separately. You know, you're going to get your tax refund and then you're going to get it on the unemployment level. So that is a very common question I know to cover. But aside from that, that's pretty much what I really just wanted to cover in today's update. So hopefully you guys found some insight about that. Again, keep in mind is that they've already officially sent to a lot of people on the federal level. There are still a lot of people still waiting, so just know there's a lot of people still with you. But what I don't believe that has actually started yet is really sending it on the state level. I think that is something that has been taking some time in order to process. Of course, that one actually varies a lot because when it comes to the state level, every state is relatively different as opposed to the federal level where it's just all within the same one federal reserve across the entire country. So that is really just something to know. But aside from that is, if you guys found something insightful, maybe consider smashing the like button, consider subscribing for more information. If we do end up getting anything, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts, or to share any information that you might particularly have, because I'm sure a lot of other people would love to hear it as well. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.